fact, the movement for D.C. statehood reached its furthest point yet when Congress passed a bill to pave the way to make the district the 51st state back in 2020. Didn't go anywhere in the Senate, but one Republican Senator, Mike Lee of Utah, wants to strip the district of its home rule. The district shadow representative, Oye Owolewa, is up late with me tonight here on the Final Five to talk about that and more. Welcome in. Good to see you tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, first things first, because we talked about it on the show before, but let's hear it from the shadow representative. Yes. What do you do? What is your role in government here?
Yeah, my role, thank you for asking about that question, is to fight for D.C. statehood. We go to the House of Representatives, we go to the Senate, go to all across the country to not only raise the awareness of D.C. statehood, but also the support of it as well.
All right, so we've seen this fight take so many forms, and it really did. I mean, the finish line really was never so close than what it was in 2020, but then you need 60 votes in the Senate. You couldn't get the support for that, so that's where it languished, and you'll have to have another Congress pass that in the future.
Right.
Mike Lee is a senator from Utah.
Yes.
He's a Republican. In the past, he's tried to strip D.C. of its anti-discrimination efforts against the LGBT community. He wanted to put a 20-week abortion ban limit for D.C. He's from Utah.
Yeah.
What's happening here?
What's going on right now, they introduced a bill called the Bowser Act that will strip home rule from D.C. And what home rule is our way of self-governance. You know, it's our mayor, it's our council, the people we elect to keep D.C. safe and to keep it reflective of the wishes of D.C. residents, not folks from Utah.
We have heard in the past on certain efforts when it comes to statehood, the likes of Mitch McConnell liken the idea to socialism. You have other Republicans who say that if you would give D.C. statehood, it would mean 2 permanent Democratic seats in the U.S. Senate. That's sort of the lens which they're viewing this through. Right. But the fact remains, you do have 700,000 people who, in a federal district, of course, but still 700,000 people who are paying taxes.
Absolutely. We pay our taxes, we balance our budgets, we serve in the wars, and we have nothing to show for it. I mean, we're 200 years past the creation of this country when we finally got home rule, but we really need statehood. And my role is to make sure people all across this country know about statehood and know how their lives are impacted by us becoming a state.
So one of the main reasons we've heard from a lot of lawmakers who believe that D.C. is not fit to be a state, judging by crime rates, judging by things that have happened in the district in recent years. Is there any shred of truth or validity in some of these concerns?
Absolutely not. They make excuse for everything. I was at a hearing where they say we didn't have enough car lots. They say we didn't have an airport. People create reasons why D.C. shouldn't be a state. But when you get down to the fundamentals of freedom, of representation, with the values of this country, I think we really show what we deserve as, people living in the nation's capital.
Have you had any interaction with Senator Lee or anybody who's pushing the, because it's not just Senator Lee. Cynthia Lummis is a senator from Wyoming. She's co-signed onto this, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee. Have you had any communication with these lawmakers?
Not at all. We even reached out to former Governor Scott, now Senator Scott, and they don't want. I mean, even if you go to their website, it's not even there. I think at the end of the day, sometimes people want to punch down on D.C. residents because it's easy, but there's an awareness issue. Once we get more people to figure out that D.C. statehood is a real issue and people care about it, whether they're Republican, whether they're non-Republicans, whether they're in red states or blue states, I think it'll be easier to put pressure on lawmakers to leave us alone and give us our rights.
So look, there is, the Constitution calls for a federal district, and that's where everybody lives, and you live there, I live in D.C. The reality is some of the measures that have come down shrinks the district. So there would still be a federal district. In terms of messaging, though, is that getting across to the people that need to hear that? Because there are people who say it's unconstitutional, period, to make D.C. a state.
Well, most of the people that say it's unconstitutional are the lawmakers that don't want the district to become a state. Now, when you go into history, whether it's Hawaii and Alaska, they were introduced as Republican and Democratic states, but in time, it flipped. So rather than try to convince us that their way is right, the GOP is just trying to strip us or keep us stripped of our rights. I think at the end of the day, talking about statehood, keeping this conversation alive, not only outside the district, but also people in D.C. who otherwise don't know what it's like to live in a state, let them know how their lives have changed as well.
We know that in recent elections, D.C. obviously trends overwhelmingly Democratic. You have Hillary Clinton win something like 90% of the votes back in 2016. But there is room at a table where you should be able to sit across from Republicans and they should be able to talk to you about their concerns and you could talk to them about their concerns.
Absolutely. I mean, nationwide, public safety is the #1 issue. Whether you're in Bakersfield, California, or here in D.C., I think we should all come together and create solutions. But what we don't need is Senate members putting their thumb on the needle and telling us that they'd rather take over their city rather than let us self-govern.
I should point out, I reached out to Senator Mike Lee's office, and by the way, if they get back to us and they give us any response to these questions, we will share them with our viewers. It's important to do that, but it's also important to talk about these issues. Thanks for coming in tonight.
Thank you for having
me. Great to see you. Our pleasure. And the Final Five is back right after this.